Okay, ready.
Good morning, Burton Chapel. This is your pastor, Reverend N.W. Boswell. And on this morning, I am not going to have a message for you. I did my Christmas message on the first Sunday. Remember, we talked about go home another way. We talked about the birth of Jesus. We talked about the shepherds being there, the wise men coming and being warned in a dream not to go back to King Herod. They went back another way. But what I want to talk to you briefly about today is watch meeting. You know, in the past, we have joined in with Sweet Gum, Beulah, and Combs Chapel, and the four churches would get together on New Year's Eve. We started getting together at 10 with a testimony service for about an hour, and then we would go into the actual watch meeting service. And it would end at midnight, because we would find ourselves down around the altar praying the old year out and the new year in. A couple of years ago, we moved the service up, where the service started around 6, and we were out around 7:30 or 8, which we didn't see the old year out and the new year in, but we did that because of a lot of our elderly members bringing them out so late in the evening. We thought it was best. But with the pandemic, Burton Chapel will not be participating in any type of watch night service. I would hope that with there being a pandemic, you would find yourself at home, not partying, not enjoying yourself, seeing the old year out and new year in, but whatever the case may be. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes and explain to you why we have watch meeting. You know, as a little boy, I basically grew up in the church, and when New Year's Eve came, Mother said we're going to church, and like all little boys, if your mama tell you you're going to church, you go to church. But I really didn't know why we did New Year's watch meeting service. No one really explained the history of that to me, and I want to share that with you. It goes back to 1862. Watch night services began in 1862 with blacks in the United States waiting for the enactment of the Emancipation Proclamation on New Year's Day, 1863. Many of us, myself included, grew up in black communities around black churches, and we held watch night services in our churches. The gathering of the faithful would come out on New Year's Eve. The service usually would begin around 7 or around 10, and it would end at midnight with the entrance of the new year. Some folks would come to church first, and then they would go out and celebrate. Others just came to church, and that was their New Year's Eve event. Now, I can't say I've always went to watch meeting services. When I was a little boy and my mother was taking me on New Year's Eve, I went to watch meeting. But when I grew up and was able to drive, I didn't go to watch meeting service because, William, I was in some club. I was at George, and I wasn't by myself. I was not by myself. But look at how God will turn things back around. I started in the church. I left the church. The church didn't leave me. But now, at 63, well, it was before 63, I am finding myself back in the church. Watch watch meeting was predominantly held in black churches. There were a lot of denominations that didn't recognize watch meeting. They recognized Christmas Eve because Christmas Eve was the night of Jesus' birth. They did not recognize watch meeting because watch meeting celebrates a secular holiday, which is New Year's. And Christmas Eve is a sacred evening because that is the eve of Jesus' birth. So a lot of churches, other than your African American black churches, did not really push the watch meeting service. The watch meeting service in black communities that we celebrate today can be traced back to December 31st, 1862. It was not called watch meeting then. It was called Freedom's Eve. On that night, blacks came together in churches and in private homes all across the nation, anxiously awaiting news that the Emancipation Proclamation had actually become law. Then at the stroke of midnight, it was January 1, 1863, and all slaves in the Confederate States were declared legally free. When the news was received, there were prayers, there were shouts, there were songs of joy as people fell to their knees and thanked God. Black folks have gathered in churches annually on New Year's Eve ever since, praising God for bringing us safely through another year. And you know, burdens, that's it. We are honoring the tradition that was started in 1862, where blacks waited until January 1st, 1863, until they were legally declared free, and they prayed and sang and shouted and thanked God. When we have watch meeting, we thank God for taking us through another year's journey. Some that started out on January 1, 2020 are not able to stand on January 1, 2021. And when you think about this year, that pandemic, and all the individuals that have been called home to glory, if you are able to stand, you have something to thank God for. Amen. I don't know where you're going to be on New Year's Eve. You may be at your home. You may be in a vehicle. You may be at a celebration. But wherever you are, I hope that you take a moment and thank God for being the God that He is. Burton Chapel, I will see you on the first Sunday in January, if it's the Lord will, as we give the message for the first Sunday in the year 2021. I love you, Burton Chapel. Take care.